Well, ladies and gentlemen, we want to talk about the Great Migration, but we're not going to talk about it just in the sense of moving, to the North and the West between 1916 and 1970. But we're going to talk about the white supremacist response. The white supremacists have always a response to black movement and potential black unification. Now, J. Edgar Hoover said the greatest threat to the United States was black unity. I want to repeat that again. He said the greatest threat to the United States is black unity, whether here, whether definitely abroad. But he always knew that. There's always been their policy. And some things that we're going to read today, you'll be like, wow, that's happening today. And I'm probably step on a little toes, and that's fine. That's what I'm called to do. So they had about 6 million black Americans left the South, for better opportunities in the North and the West. So we said between 1960 and 1970. Their relocation changed the demographic landscape of the United States and much of the agricultural labor force in the South. And I say decades long, it's a multi-generational movement of black Americans known as the Great Migration impacted Southern labor to such a degree that white landowners resorted to coercive tactics to keep black Americans from leaving. Okay, so these people were racially terrorizing black people, got Jim Crow, all of that. But when black people say, you know what, I'm done, I'm getting the hell away from these people, they want to do everything they can to hold you. Okay. And that's no different today. And I'll get to this. Now, what I know about the white supremacists, he do not change. He's the same as he was in 1916 and 1970. He's the same way in 2022. Okay. Now, they say after Reconstruction ended in 1877, they say the Jim Crow segregation became the law across the South, restricting political, economic, and social mobility of black Americans. Now, they said that a comprehensive history of the migration is in 1900. They had had a book, talking about the warmth of other suns, the epic story of American migration. They said 9 out of every 10 black people lived in the South. So if I told y'all before, if you talking about homeland, your homeland is the South. It's not California. That's not your homeland. Your ancestors, you talking about what you built, even though I don't really like the building conversation too much because it just frustrates me, that building conversation, even though it's true. Yes, we did build America. Yes, we did innovate America, but we don't control America. We don't control no percentage of it. And that is my frustration about the building conversation. It's hard for me to take pride in that to a point. I mean, because we built it under distress. We didn't build it by choice. Everything they have in this country, we built. We are the ones, the reason why this country became so rich. And yet, we don't control nothing. And now we had land, we had this, we had that, but the white supremacists made sure to take all that away. So that's a frustrating conversation, at least for me. Now, they say 3 out of 4 lived on farms. Our people are very agricultural, which agriculture is something for nation building. They say despite a concerted effort by white Southern landowners to make them stay, they say by 1970, the half of all black Americans, about 47%, will be living outside of the South. Now, they say post-slavery, white Southerners still depended on black people as their main labor force, from picking cotton, working in rice plantations or tobacco fields, logging, or serving as domestics. They say black Americans performed some grueling tasks as they did while enslaved, and options for upward mobility under Jim Crow were bleak and dangerous. They black sharecroppers paid rent to live and work on the land of white planters who took a percentage of their harvest and charged for seeds, tools, and food, leaving black sharecroppers in crippling debt. By law, sharecroppers could not leave the land until the debt was paid, effectively enforcing them to stay. They say, but the fate of Southern black Americans changed in 1916 when news of better jobs and conditions up north started spreading in rural communities. Say black newspapers like the Chicago Defender ran stories about opportunities for black Americans in steel mills and factories and encouraged them to leave the South. They say because white Southerners could not afford to lose a cheap and subservient workforce, they attempted to cut off access to the Chicago Defender. Now, Black Americans saying, let me get away from white supremacist terrorism to better opportunities in the North or better opportunities in the West. You know, we have this online chatter now to say to get away from, you know, conditions like that of white supremacy. Even in your own country, you want to just use the word, you know, we hear the term running a lot. We hear the term fleeing a lot. Well, you got children, right? Let's say you're a family with children, you're a man and have a wife and children. Okay, you can do so much, but you're going to subject your wife and kids to certain things when you heard that, hey, if I just go up north, there's actually better jobs. And from what I'm hearing from my people, we don't deal with the same things in the South. Not to say we're not going to deal with nothing up there, but it's definitely going to be a lot less. Okay. So according to what a lot of people are saying online is that our ancestors ran. And that conversation is so silly to me. It's silly because even animals understand to get away from danger. Our people are living under horrible conditions by these white supremacists. Why in the hell wouldn't they get away from it? I mean, that would just be crazy. Now, they continue to say that actually the white supremacists, we talked about how when the Chicago Defender was telling black people, hey, you got these opportunities up here. Come on, come get it. The white supremacists say, oh, wait a minute. Because see, at one point in time, the newspaper was your internet, right? And if you didn't get a newspaper, then shoot, you didn't get no information. Well, thank God for the internet. So they said that, you know what? Nah. We can't be losing black people because they're beneficial to this Southern economy. So they say that they actually interfere with the U.S. mail to prevent the Defender from being distributed. According to the executive director of American Historical Association. Now they said, or they did some ordinance and intimidation. They say with the resurgence of the Klan in 1915, largely tied to release of the film Birth of a Nation, they said that depicted black men as savages, the economic gains of black entrepreneurs that threatened the social order of white supremacy. Violence against black Americans erupted across the United States, according to the Equal Justice Initiative. They say at least 4,075 black Americans were lynched across the South between 1870 and 1950. They say black Americans who fled racial oppression either returned to retrieve the rest of their family or sent train tickets back home. There we go. People had to leave that. And I don't fault my ancestors at all. If you sitting in California right now, your ancestors left the South. If you sitting in Chicago, if you sitting anywhere up north, your ancestors left the South. You know, so if some people want to use the term running and all that situation, well, if you sitting in those states right now, well, I guess, you know, by your logic, your ancestors ran. Mine stayed in the South. They didn't quote unquote run, right? I don't even have that care about that because I don't know the situation. Well, it would be better jobs, better situation. Man, I'm all for black people making sure to make their life good. And this is what our ancestors had to do. But continuing, they said that black people, you know, of course, we talked about them leaving and sending train tickets. In response, they said white Southerners observed train platforms packed with black Americans. And several cities passed ordinances that made it illegal for trains to accept prepaid tickets. And said there were ordinances put in place to also prevent group travel. They say if black families or clusters of black Americans tried to purchase group rates. They say the police literally went up to the platforms and rounded up people. They say to dissuade black people from traveling. They say an intimidation tactic that worked. They say it was based on the concept of place, which was the word that whites and blacks used to talk about where blacks often stood in the social order. They say if black Americans left the South, then there was a threat to both the economic interest and the white way of life. See, and that's still like that to this day. And some of you in 2022 don't get that. You do have a place in American society. They may not use that word to stay in your place, but you do have a place in American society. And they said black people leaving was a threat to their economic interests and the white way of life. I told you, you cannot be supreme if you don't have a permanent underclass. And black people were selected then and selected now as the permanent underclass. You understand? So some of the conversation y'all having today, the white supremacists love it. I'm going to just be 100 with y'all. The white supremacists love it. When the white supremacists hear you say, I ain't going nowhere, I'm going to be this, I'm going to do that, the white supremacists, oh, we got them. We got them. We're going to keep that $1 trillion they spending every year in this country. We know that only 6 hours of money stay in the black community, so it benefits our community more so than anybody else. So we got them there. We're sure not going to let them run this country. That's just not going to happen. That $1 trillion spending power, they had said that's like, if it was a country of people, that'd be like number 14 in the world. Oh, we can't sit there and let those black people go away. So yeah. I mean, shoot, we'll let them think that they're going to do something in this country and all that. We'll throw them a bone here and there, but we can't let those black Americans go. We talking about even in 2022, we can't let them go. We can't. If we let them go, what's going to happen to America? Look, 47% of our ancestors left the South and it changed everything. But let's continue. They say a common belief among white Southerners was that black people were intellectually inferior and would not think to move to the North in search of better opportunities. They believe incorrectly that there was something really happening to black people were being stirred up by labor agents from northern industries coming to the South to round up black workers. This is in part because their genuine belief in the lack of agency of black people and that black people can't possibly be figuring things out on themselves. Now, that's the same thought process they got today. They think black people are dumb, especially the Democrat Party. They think you're dumb. I told you, the white supremacists don't change. They don't change. They're the same people. They're actually very easy to figure out, folks. They do nothing new. The only thing new is just new names, new faces, and new technology. But if you understand the thought process of racism, white supremacy, and understand the culture of white supremacy, they don't change. It's easy to figure them out. Now, they say, although there were instances of black Americans being recruited to work from as Pullman porters, they say on railways and seasonal on tobacco farms in Connecticut, they say the true northern labor agents were black Americans themselves. They say black Americans who had migrated to the North and worked for better wages would visit family in the South and tell them about available jobs. But white Southerners would try to persuade black people that life wouldn't be better up north and that job conditions were terrible, even invoking a myth that black Americans couldn't survive the cold winter. Oh, okay. Well, if you leave America, you ain't gonna have it as good as you had it in America. I mean, shoot. I mean, look how poor those countries are that y'all talking about. Shoot, they trying to immigrate over here. You can't leave this place. I mean, you're in the best place ever. Same thing. It's the same tactic. The tactic is to hold you because because you are an economic base for them. You spend $1 trillion and none of it stay in the black community. None of it. I can understand that we spend $1 trillion and even half of that stayed in the black community. I'm like, okay, we doing good now. We don't even keep our money. We are a big benefit to white supremacy in this country economically. So when they hear you fighting with other black people, hunkering yourself down in a place that you can't even keep money in your hands 6 hours and it goes to mostly white people. Hell yeah, I like to hear that if I was white supremacist. Yeah, I like to hear that. Why would I want that to go? Shoot, gonna put me in a messed up situation. What about my white kids? Now they say still the great migration powered on with the promise of a better life, more dignity and employment. They say black Americans begin to leave from a train station further away so they wouldn't be recognized by locals and police officers. They say although migration slowed during the Great Depression because of the lack of jobs, in 1941, Franklin D. Roosevelt's Executive Order 8802, which banned federal agencies from discriminatory employment practice for war-related jobs, launched a massive wave of black people leaving the rural South for defense jobs during World War II. They said white Southerners anticipating more labor shortages utilized the mechanical cotton picker in more in 1940, often evicting black sharecroppers from their land, who in turn migrated elsewhere to search for work. These developments, as it cemented the black American pilgrimage from the South until the 1970s. So as you can see, the white supremacists was trying to hold black people. And the purpose is they said that black people leaving is going to mess up the white way of life. Y'all don't know really how important you are to America economically. You are very, very important. And y'all don't even realize that power. Y'all don't even know how to utilize that power either. You don't. But now I'm going to go into another document here. I'm going to go into Memorandum 46 because there's some things, even though I covered this years ago, I want to cover this again because there's certain things that even applies to this day. OK, now this came out during the Carter administration, which is a Democrat, Jimmy Carter. And I want to talk about this because the white supremacists like certain conversation that some of you, not all of you, some of you are having. OK. Now, this was sent to the chairperson of the talking about them from the African Union. OK, just at least this first part of the letter. And they say here, OK, they called the National Security Council Memorandum 46. It say it was addressing Black Africa and the U.S. Black movement. OK, and recommends U.S. government policy options which are in direct conflict of what their Article 3 of the Constitutive Act of the African Union. Now, it said, number one, specific steps should be taken with the help of appropriate government agencies to inhibit coordinated activity of the black movement in the United States. Now, this is talking to the African Union, okay? It says special clandestine operations should be launched by the CIA to generate mistrust and hostility in American and world opinion against joint activity of the two forces and to cause division among black African radical national groups and their leaders. Say the FBI should mount surveillance operations against black African representatives and collect sensitive information to those, especially at the UN, who oppose U.S. policy towards South Africa. We're talking about apartheid South Africa, okay? Because, you know, the U.S. supported, of course, their white supremacist brethren. He said the information should include facts on their links with the leaders of the black movement in the United States. Why is it, and you got to ask this question, what was the threat to them that black people in Africa and black people in the United States working together in unification? Let me tell you something. Black unity, once again, J. Edgar Hoover said black unity was the greatest threat to the United States. When people use the term pan-Africanism, let's call it what it is. We created pan-Africanism. Marcus Garvey got that started here in America. We are the author of pan-Africanism, period. People say pan-Africanism, some are saying it don't work. Well, we are the authors of that. So, of course, we'll practice that a lot more than they will, right? In other countries. That's like saying why black Americans do more hip hop than any other place in the world. We created it. Why black Americans do more jazz or R&B? Why they do more of that in America? We created it. That's something from our culture, right? And for me, Pan-Africanism is just black unity on a global scale. But black unity is always something that we should strive for. But unfortunately, we don't have a lot of black unity in America, but we're going to get to why too. Now, they said that in light of the open declaration by the African Union to include the African diaspora, it's okay. So the African Union, we talking about the original African Union. They say, hey, we need to include all the brothers and sisters in this, what we're doing here in Africa, right? I'm going somewhere with this about how the white supremacists move from back even with the Great Migration to now. I'm going to link this together. Just let me build my case here, right? They said that I strongly urge the African Union to ask the United States government whether or not the policy recommendations in NSC Memorandum 46 are presently still in effect, and if not, when they terminated, what is the U.S. government current policy on the subject of black Africa and the U.S. black movement? Once again, they're very, very concerned. Anybody that's talking about some pan-Africanism, even on the continent, that gets concerning. And they explain why. Okay, it goes back to something. Now, if you watch the movie Django Unchained, Calvin Candy said, "These are my N-words, and I do with them whatever the hell I want." And that statement to me was the most powerful statement of the movie, because that is America's policy toward black people. They look at us as their N-words, theirs. Okay, They want to hold you. They want to make sure you stay a permanent underclass. And once again, you benefit them by spending over $1 trillion that do not stay in the black community. We look at all these, celebrities that we even have in our community. None of the money that they have come from the black community, but they generate billions. And even their money don't stay in the black community. Now, they said Black Africa and the U.S. Black Movement. They said the president, now this is to the Secretary of State I'm reading right now. It said the president has directed that a comprehensive review be made of current developments in Black Africa, and the point of view and their possible impacts on the black movement in the United States. Okay, so they say long-term tendencies of social and political developments and a degree to which they are consistent with or contradict U.S. interests. They say proposals for durable contacts between radical African leaders and leftist leaders of the U.S. black community. It's the appropriate steps should be taken inside and outside the country in order to inhibit any pressure by radical African leaders and organizations in the U.S. black community for the latter to exert influence of the policy of the administration towards Africa. They said that the president has directed the NSC Interdepartmental Group for Africa perform this review. Now, if you go down here, they said that our objective of our policy toward Black Africa is to prevent social upheaval, which could radically change the political situation throughout the area. So they talk about the success or failure of that policy. The region depends on the importance, for the United States. Now, they said that they talk about basically the resources if Black African states assume attitudes hostile toward the U.S. national interests, our policy toward white regimes, which is a key element to our relations with black states, may be subject to the latter to greater pressure of fundamental change. Thus, the West may face real danger of being deprived of access to enormous raw material resources of Southern Africa, which are vital for our defense needs, as well as losing control over the Cape Sea routes, by which approximately 65% of Middle Eastern oil is supplied to Western Europe. Okay. So they talk about here, what happened with, our great brother, Robert Mugabe, how they lost Rhodesia and all of that. They talking about how they supported the apartheid government. But now they have a section called Black Africa and the U.S. Movement. It said, apart from the above mentioned adverse U.S. strategic interests, they said the nationalist movement in Black Africa can act as a catalyst with far-reaching effects on the American black community by stimulating its organizational consolidation and by inducing radical action such as would be likely as Zaire and went the way of Angola and Mozambique. They said that after the occurrence of the 67, 68 would do egregious harm to U.S. prestige, especially in the view of the concern of the present administration with human rights. They say, moreover, administration would take specific steps to stabilize the situation. They say such steps may be misunderstood by inside and outside the U.S. So in order to prevent such a trend, they would appear to elaborate and carry out countermeasures. Say, one, the possibility of joint action by U.S. black and African national movements. Say, in elaborating U.S. power toward Black Africa due to the weight given to the fact that there are 25 million Black Americans, they say, whose roots are African. Yes, the white man know where you're from. And say, and who consciously and subconsciously have sympathies with African nationalism. Okay. They said the living conditions of the black population should be taken into account. Immense advances in the field are accompanied by long-lasting high rate of unemployment, especially among youth, and poverty and dissatisfaction with government social welfare standards. Okay, so they worried about just the conditions that we under. I just want to highlight some things here. They say a menace to U.S. economic interest is not a critical one. Could be posed by a boycott by Black African states against American companies, which maintain contact with South Africa and Rhodesia. If the idea of economic assistance to Black Americans shared by some African regimes could be realized by placing orders in the U.S., mainly with companies owned by blacks, that could gain limited influence on the U.S. black community. So see, they was concerned that African people was going to be, ordering things from a lot of black businesses. See, it all goes back to money and control, folks. It always go back to that. Now, let's say I'm getting to a point. That's why I'm reading this. Now, they say in the political option, say in the context of long-term strategy, the United States cannot afford a radical change in fundamental of its African policy, which is designed for maximum protection of national security. Okay. And they said now their recommendations was specific steps should be taken with help of the appropriate government agencies to inhibit coordinated activity of the black movement in the United States. A special clandestine operation should be launched by the CIA to generate mistrust and hostility in American and world opinion against joint activity of the two forces and to cause division among black African radical national groups and their leaders. So they clearly said they want to generate mistrust and hostility in American and world opinion against joint activity of the two forces. So black Americans getting with Africans, they said they had to make sure to create mistrust and hostility. Like I kind of see today. And that was a CIA operation. Okay. I'm just reading here. I'm reading this document. They talked about that. Hold on. Yeah, here we go. It said the FBI should mount surveillance operations against black African representatives and collect sensitive information on those, especially at the UN, who oppose U.S. policy towards South Africa. Once again, America did support the white supremacist apartheid regime. It said the information should include facts and links to the leaders. It said of the black movements in the United States, thus making possible at least partial neutralization of adverse effects of their activity. So they kept being threatened by black people, once again, linking up and joining with Africans. Some black people did leave the country as well. Now, this is what they said that the worst thing about black Americans is that black Americans form a single ethnic group potentially capable of causing extreme instability in our strategy towards South Africa. This may lead to critical differences between the United States and black Africa in particular. It would also encourage the Soviet Union to step up its interference in the region. Finally, it would pose a serious threat to delicate structure of race relations with the United States. Okay. And then they said some options that they had. They said was to enlarge programs within the framework of the United States to give black people social and economic welfare of blacks to ensure continuing development of present trends in the black community. They said to elaborate and bring effect special program designed to perpetrate division in the black movement and neutralize, it said, the most active groups of leftist radical organizations, different social strata of the black community. To encourage division in black circles, it said to preserve, it said, the present climate which inhibits the emergence or within the black leadership of a person capable of exerting a nationwide appeal. It said to work out and realize preventive operations in order to impede durable ties between U.S. black organizations and radical groups in African states. It says support actions designed to sharpen social stratification in the black community, which would lead to the widening and perpetuating of the gap between successful educated blacks and the poor, giving rise to an antagonism between different black groups and weakening of the movement as a whole. They did that to a T. Okay? They did it to a T. Now, they said that to support the nomination of federal and local level of loyal black public figures to elective offices, to government agencies and the court. Well, we see that, Ketanji, we see that, Kamala, right? They said that promotion would achieve a twofold purpose. First, it would be easier to control the activity of loyal black representatives within the institution. Yes. And second, the idea of an independent black political party now under discussion within black leadership circles will soon lose all support. So the reason why I read all that is this. It connects. The white supremacists do not want you away from them. They don't want you away from them, whether you leave the country or whatever you're doing to get away from them. They don't, especially this country, they don't want that, right? I'm a firm believer that if 47% of black people would try to leave America, I believe they would be doing the same tactics to keep black people here. Because think about it, if 47% of black people were to leave America, that's taking away you're taking away 47% out of that 1.4 trillion that black people are spending, right? Of course, I've always told people, do what you think you need to do. I don't tell nobody to leave America. I don't tell nobody anything. But what I'm saying is our ancestors that left the South, right? Now, a lot of people are returning back to the South. But our ancestors that left the South, they did it because it was better jobs, better treatment, at least in what they was getting, and definitely getting away from racialized terrorism, where they were outnumbered, they were outgunned, and the situation just was not good. Who want to keep seeing your people swinging from a tree every freaking week? And you're like, why the hell I'm staying here? Black entrepreneurs were the greatest threat to them. And they still a threat to them now. But now let's get to part of the reason why I made this today. Me understanding the white supremacist, he loves to see argument between black people. Notice that he purposely moved up certain black people to cause a division in the community. Because at one point in time, we was all the same. No matter what you were doing, we was all in the same neighborhoods. So he purposely moved up black people to cause a division within our community and to keep tabs on black people and to use black people as a voice to do what they want to do. He loved, listen, the white supremacists, and I had to think about it for a minute. I'm like, prior to, I would say before the year of return with Ghana, which I didn't go to the year of return at all. Some people did, but I didn't do that. And I mean, I have my reasons. A lot of people was traveling. They were saying black people spending about $40-some billion a year traveling globally. Black people from the United States, not just to Africa, but whatever countries they're going to. And I had noticed that all of a sudden, and because I'm going to have to tell the truth of what it is, ADOS pops up on the scene. And I can't even say Antonio Moore. I can't even say him. But I will say Yvette Carnell. Yvette Carnell came out with this strong anti-Africa sentiment. Yes, they talked about the year of return, but Yvette Carnell has a strong anti-Africa sentiment. I say, why is she like that about it? But then I had to think about it too. You know, I said, well, her lifestyle that she lived, and you know what that is. Her lifestyle would not be accepted in a lot of African countries. So there's a few that would accept it, but a lot of them won't accept it. Maybe she's offended by that. But America would accept that, right? And when I heard all that, because, you know, I grew up, man, we never had no problem with no Africa or nobody, you know what I'm saying? But all this anti-Africa sentiment, and I think about white supremacy at this point. White supremacy love any division with black people. Love it. Do they got good black people in America? Hell yeah. Do they got some effed up black people? Yes. Do they got some good black people in the Caribbean? Hell yeah. Do they got some effed up black people? Yes. You got some good African people? Yes. You got some effed up Africans? Yes. That's called life. You don't mess with the people who's effed up, who's trying to cause a problem, a beef, or whatever it may be. You just don't fool with those people. You X them out your circles. You always gonna have good and bad. That's just the world. You know, you never gonna not deal with that. But knowing what I know about the white supremacists, especially by black Americans, you are very, very important to the white supremacist structure. They will ignore you. They will not deal with, they will keep you in a permanent underclass status, but they don't want you to even think of unification, and they surely don't want you to leave them. That's the two things they don't want, because you are so beneficial to the white supremacists here in this country. And the white supremacists will amplify, you know, anyone who's against black people, no matter what that is. So they will amplify the Rolands and, you know, the Joy Reid's voices, and they'll just make sure, you know, some things they allow them to say and there's something they're not. Now you say, well, why is the mainstream media with Tiffany Cross promoting Ghana? Because that's what they were promoting, Ghana. That was an interesting conversation about them promoting Ghana. That's a lot of reason why I don't fool with Ghana. Not because I have an issue with Ghana. I don't. But when I see a too many people like Tiffany Cross and Roland talking about Ghana too much, I seen all them black celebrities show up in Ghana saying, I don't want to be nowhere near it. No. And I haven't been there. I just haven't. You know, anywhere that y'all going too much at, I'm not going to be. Period. But I was just looking at all of this and I say, wait a minute. The white supremacists love all this conversation about hunkering down here in this place because you are too beneficial to the American economy. I'm not going to say who told me that, but somebody told me that used to work for the U.S. government. They told me that black people are very, very beneficial to the United States. Very. And no, they don't want you to leave. You know, I just remember that conversation. They don't want us to go nowhere. So they love to hear y'all arguing and fighting and saying I ain't no African and everything else. They love that because they say, oh, we got these Negroes. We got them. We're going to keep them here for another 40, 50 years like this, even though our median wealth is going to go down to zero. But that's okay. At least we still got them long as possible. I just see the white supremacist for who he is, ladies and gentlemen. And I know he's so dependent on us. But the thing is, even in America, we don't even flip that, though. We don't flip the economics. Because, like, when everybody talking about I'm a fight, the greatest fight is actually economics. That's the fight. But we'll come together for things. Let me see if I can say this. The people that have the ability to galvanize black people to raise funds, they never do it in a way that benefits the community per se. They don't. You know, some people, they'll just open their wallets to certain people. You know, because some people, I guess, they got the gift of gab or they're good at the 48 laws of power. It could be in the black community. And they'll give so much, but yet nothing. I mean, you know, if I was that kind of person, and I think that God didn't want me to be that kind of person, you know, because you can go down a dark path with that if you isn't righteous, you know, or didn't have righteous motives, I'm going to say. But what if you had the ability to raise, you know, $300,000, $400,000 and say, you know what, I'm going to take this money and I'm going to give this money to black businesses who's struggling, who need a loan. And so I'm just going to give this money to these black businesses but already established black business. I'm going to give it to them in our community. Oh, we're trying to build a school. You know, let's go ahead on a school that's already running, not one that needs to be built, but one that's already running. Let me go ahead and let's go ahead and raise some money and get a bigger building or whatever for our community. You know what I'm saying? Like, so much could be done, and yet these things aren't being done. You know, even you look at the media space, there's this reality. Everybody's in quote unquote competition with each other. Nobody want to work with each other, you know, and I've been accepted that. You know, because people have always asked why everybody don't work with each other. Because everybody look at each other as competition, or they don't like each other for whatever it is. They may not go at each other, but that's kind of what it is. A lot of people just don't like each other, you know, and I've worked with a lot of people in my day. Right. But I would think it would be powerful for unity's sake for all the people to work together, even in the online space. I'm not saying we got the same ideas, but work together. And I've been asked that. But, you know, everybody getting these little clicks. That's why we don't get nowhere as a community. If we would even all work together on the online space, and just not all the time, but just at times, like everybody come together and do something. You know what I'm saying? I think the people would really love to see everybody come together in one place to even do a conference or something, right? But it's, you know, it's too many personalities. It's people that don't want to do it. So it's like the unification is just very, very hard, you know, for our community. And the white man loves that. He loves it because he benefit from us not being unified. He benefit from us with our money, staying here as a permanent underclass, and we're going to be a fifth and sixth class citizen. It's coming, right? He benefits from that. So he need every trickery he can to keep you here and to keep us divided so he could benefit. And that's my point. My point is the white supremacist has not changed. And I look at it as I don't want to be a pawn to keep him in power, because that's all it's going to do as time go along. And while we're sinking deeper and deeper and deeper into a permanent underclass status. Now, people always ask, well, why the immigrants are coming over here for the purpose of the white man. They're not coming over here for their purposes. Remember, he's the one letting them in, so he has a special purpose for them, right? He uses them sometime to undermine our progress. That's the truth. He do. You think he letting all these non-white people in here for no reason? All those immigrants that come in here, he allowed them to come in to undermine our progress, to undermine maybe our vote, to whatever. I'm not even saying the immigrant that's coming in with those thoughts. I'm talking about the white man's thoughts. He's always trying to neutralize us. And if he can do it with people that he can just kick out, you understand, when immigrants come in, he can just kick them out if they get out of line. He can't just kick us out like that, but he sure can kick them out. So it's a win-win for him at any given time. People that come over here just from me being in those countries, a lot of them couldn't get jobs. You know, they some of them are educated, but the jobs isn't there. So they come here for jobs, they make some money, send the money back, etc. Right? But I've talked to many of them, and many of them don't even want to be here. They don't care less about it. They see all going on in this country. Say they see George Floyd. I've been told by many of them. I seen what happened to George Floyd. I stopped thinking about going to America. That guy in my head. I do not want to be in a country with something like that happening. No, you know. So please don't think every African or Caribbean is trying to beg their way to get in here. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, you know, we want to just cover that today, just with a little history. It's more so about the thinking of the white supremacist and how he wants to hold you. He wants to hold you. We're talking about Black Americans. He wants to hold you tight. He wants to make sure that we're not unified. He don't want us connecting, you know, globally unifying with Black people. He don't want us working together. He don't want anything. He don't want us away from him. Because one thing I'm going to say before I wrap up, remember they used to tell us a lot, go back to Africa. Now a lot of us are going to Africa, and notice he ain't saying that no more. Go back to Africa. He should be supportive. Listen, the white man has said if he truly felt he wanted us away, he should be giving the biggest donations to me, because I promote going to Africa, right? He ain't doing it. What does that tell you? He don't want you gone. He wants you here because he needs your money. He needs your talent, because that's how you make a lot of money. He needs your talent. You know, he needs you politically because, you know, y'all vote and don't ask for nothing and don't demand anything. Yeah, the white man, you know, when Calvin said these are my N words and I do with them whatever the hell I want, that's exactly how they feel about Black America today. That's why I tell Black America, you know, keep doing what you're doing. You're going to see where it's going to get you. What we doing today is the most subservient crap I've ever seen. Our people has always take stands. They moved around. They did all kind of things. And today, you know, for us, what we doing is just hashtag, you know, or in the words of your boy Clyburn, sloganizing. But thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us on the podcast today. We greatly appreciate it. I know this one's a little longer than what we normally do, but we just had to talk about, and this was more so about the white supremacists. This is not more so about the Great Migration or even Memorandum 46 itself about, you know, the connection to what they're trying to do with us in Africa and over there. It was more so about the white supremacists, how he do not want us getting away from him. He do not want us unified. How he used, you know, the boule to cause division, raising people up to cause division. You understand what I'm saying? Everything with this white supremacist is the same today. Please don't stop falling for the wiles of the devil, because a lot of you have fell for that. And it just kind of just made me shake my head how y'all just so entrenched in white supremacy that y'all don't even realize it by something you're saying. So make sure you click that like button and also subscribe. And if you like the show, you know, consider donating a love offering or joining the channel membership. And we appreciate you coming by, and see you next time.